Hello and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast. I'm Kimberly Dondo, Digital Content Manager. And in this week's Weekend Essay podcast, we have feature writer Amanda Newman Smith explaining why she has warmed to digital and hybrid advice. Take it away, Amanda.
My mum recently received a worrying letter through the post from a utility provider. It said they'd written to her previously about an overdue bill and further action would be taken if it wasn't paid. This was the first my mum had heard of her account being in arrears, and she didn't understand how it had happened. My mum is amazing with money and has always been meticulous about her bills. In a previous weekend essay, I talked about my childhood memories of her importance handbag, where she kept all her paperwork, including proof that she'd paid her bills on time. Nothing has changed on her part, and that was, in a way, the problem. She's not keen on things like paying by direct debit, and I think that's to do with my gran's experience. My gran has had money debited twice by utilities firms and had a massive fight trying to get her money back from them. So I can understand the feeling that if I don't give these providers control of my account, they can't mess up because I'm in control. But paying things online is so much easier. So after nagging mum a few years ago, we decided I'd pay her bill online on her behalf using online banking. This enabled us to easily go through bank statements which clearly showed payments to the utility provider, which was threatening legal action. We checked the account numbers and reference numbers to make sure I'd paid the money to the right place. It didn't add up, so we turned to Dr. Google. We then saw that someone had posted on the internet a photograph of the same letter my mum had received, saying it was a sophisticated scam. I called the company after looking up the number on Google the poster had written. They said the account number didn't exist. I could easily have fallen for it. A search on the phone number provided on those letters threw up lots of negative comments along similar lines. People all over the UK saying they'd been cold called by the number because they apparently owed money, but were adamant they didn't. I pay by direct debit, so I know it's a scam by default, someone else had written. But there were some dissenting voices in there saying they'd received genuine calls from the number. I initially dismissed these as fake convincer reviews, but then I saw that many of these more positive comments did say the call centre staff who had made them had terrible customer service skills. At that point, Mum and I didn't know what to believe, so we went on the company's website and put in a call to the number listed there, which was completely different. After an age, it was answered by a woman who struggled to answer or do anything off script. I explained that all I wanted her to do was confirm whether the number on the letter my mum had received was genuine. Aware that GDPR might be an issue, I said I didn't need to discuss the ins and outs of my mum's account, I just wanted to know if the letter was a scam or genuine. I was told that although I did not need to go through my mum's details, the agent did. Why do you need my name and email address and my mum's details just to check a phone number, I asked. Processes, was the response. I would love to say these processes were helpful, but they weren't. Certainly not to me, and I can't say they helped the agent either. She eventually checked the phone number and said it was genuine. The letter had been sent earlier that week, and apparently 2 others had been sent that my mum had never received. The more questions I asked as I tried to work out what could have happened, the more the agent repeated the same irrelevant sentences at me. It was painful. In the end, all she could do was send a statement. I could have it sent by email, which would take 2 working days, or it could arrive by post within 10 working days. I'm not usually lost for words, but I couldn't get my head around an emailed statement taking 2 working days. My husband pays our utility bills by direct debit, so I've never had to deal with things like this. Does it really take 2 working days to press send? It sounded ludicrous to me that the agent could not do that while I was on the line. And when I asked why that was, she mentioned that dreaded word again, processes. I gave up at that point and decided to register my mum's account online. At least we could see for ourselves the root of the problem there. Credit where credit's due, that experience was so much better. It was easy to do, and with minutes I was able to work out what had happened. My mum had previously been on a monthly payment plan, and in April, when the new tax year starts, the new bill she'd received through the post had been broken down into monthly payments as if the plan had automatically renewed. But it hadn't, so I'd been paying monthly when no payment plan existed, and the company had been expecting the whole amount up front. The overdue balance was the amount I would have been paying between now and the end of March 2023. Having finally got to the bottom of it, my mum was able to pay it all off immediately, and it's such a relief to know we'll have no contact with them until the next bill arrives next year. For all its processes and having people man its phone lines, it took the company 6 months to work out that it hadn't been paid as it should. I now see a good digital experience as better than poor customer services delivered by real people, or no service at all. It is a realisation that has made me view digital and hybrid advice in a more favourable light than I used to. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that face-to-face financial advice is characterised by poor customer service. Quite the opposite. I've got to know so many brilliant advisors who take pride in their work and the service they give clients. These advisors genuinely care about their clients and would be very upset if they felt they'd let a client down or fallen short in some way. In fact, in over 2 decades, there's only been one advisor who has made me wish I'd been dealing with a computer instead of a human, and that was in my first year at money marketing, when transactional relationships ruled the roost. I think that's pretty good going. As a journalist, I love talking to people and connecting with them, not too different from financial advisors, really. Texting and messaging on social media serve me well enough, although I find I do come alive more over email. But when it comes to something that is important to me, or I'm worried, only a proper conversation will do. Ideally face-to-face, but the phone isn't a bad alternative. When dealing with important things like personal finances, there's a comfort factor in hearing someone's voice as you start to unburden yourself and explain what's bothering you. When facing anything where I'm not sure what to do, I feel relieved when there's someone listening to me. Even if they haven't done anything specific to help at that point, I feel we're already halfway there to solving the problem together. Being directed to a website or an app because that level of personal attention isn't available to you used to feel second-rate to me. When people first started talking about technology as a way of filling the advice gap, I wasn't sure. I didn't think wealthy people being able to talk their options through with a qualified individual while everyone else made do with a computer was much of a breakthrough. Better than nothing, but essentially an extension of the inequalities that had led to the gap in the first place. At that time, it seemed that every computer I came into contact with either broke down or behaved erratically. If the self-checkouts in my local supermarket had been human, they would have been given their P45s long ago, as they were always in error mode. So why, I reasoned, would I trust in technology to plan my financial future? Billionaires with complex financial needs don't have a monopoly on feeling reassured by real people, or at least they shouldn't. I have a different view now, and that's partly because a better understanding of the economic reality behind face-to-face advice has made me less idealistic. AdviceBridge Chief Commercial Officer Bruce Giddy-Johnston recently talked me through how an advisor's client base can only go so far down the wealth chain before it starts being unprofitable. An automation to make advice more affordable can only go so far before the offering becomes 100% digital with no advisor input anyway. The obvious conclusion is that we all have to cut our coat according to our cloth, as we do with other areas of our lives. I'd love everyone to get free advice at the point of need, I really would. But I look at how difficult that has proved for the NHS and I think, no, that's a non-starter. The other thing is that I no longer assume humans provide a superior service. Advisors know how service standards among the providers they use seem to have plummeted since the pandemic, and I feel they have nosedived in many other business areas. I've received terrible service from employees of hotel chains and insurance firms in recent months, but this has been offset by their online services and made me think more objectively about digital offerings in the financial advice market. My initial vision of them as a poor relation of financial advice has changed, and I wonder what this market has in store for us in the future. Money marketing technology columnist and FTRC founder Ian McKenna often tells me humans can never outdo a silicon chip, or words to that effect. I don't think I understood the full significance of that when he first mentioned it to me, but I do now. I've seen how very good advice firms have got even better or have been able to deal with different sets of clients after adopting various technologies. It makes perfect sense to me for firms to do what they're good at while taking an automated approach to the things that computers do better or quicker. Whatever advice firms do or don't do, I doubt their service would be as awful as my mum's utility supplier.
Thanks, Amanda, for another insightful Weekend Essay podcast. We do hope that you enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast from. You can also keep up to date with all our new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as our print edition, Money Marketing Magazine, so make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time.